Hey, what's going on, guys? What's happening? YouTube, you guys have tuned into Rules for Rebels. We got an interesting business story for you guys today. Jack Dorsey has stepped down as the CEO of Twitter. He's going to be replaced by the former Chief Technology Officer, Parag Agrawal. And what's kind of interesting about this, I've made a couple videos about Twitter in the past year. And in each one of those videos, I didn't really predict that this was going to happen, but I kind of suggested, like, why the hell is Jack Dorsey still at Twitter, right? Jack Dorsey is a huge proponent of Bitcoin. He's a huge supporter of cryptocurrencies. He owns Square Payments, or Square Up, as I believe it's called. And then Square actually owns Cash App. So I think, not only are these two companies much more successful than Twitter, Twitter is a platform that's been hemorrhaging users. The average time spent on the site has been going down. They've been losing users for years. And even though they did fairly well during the Trump era, when Trump was on there and stirring up a bunch of controversy, Trump's gone. A lot of those people have left Twitter, are no longer on Twitter. And, I just see Twitter as a social media platform that's slowly dying. Now, Twitter's never going to go away completely. But, in the decade plus they've been around, they've never really been able to figure out how to monetize the site. People seem to be losing interest in it. Other apps like TikTok and Instagram are kind of taking the spotlight. And, we often talk about the 80-20 rule in business or even personal development, right? If 80% of your rewards, money, whatever else are coming from some certain activity, spend more time on it. Don't spend 80% of your time on something that's bringing you 20% of your profits. And, a lot of people had, I don't know if you want to say criticized, but a lot of people had either criticized Jack Dorsey or questioned, can he give his full attention to both companies, being the CEO of both Twitter and Square. And so I think a lot of people are excited to see him kind of leave. This morning on this news, Twitter stock was actually up about 10%. That didn't last very long. It wound up giving up those 10% gains plus about another 2%. We'll take a look at the stock chart right here. So if we look at the 5-day, you can kind of see here the spike today on this news, and then it kind of quickly fell. And actually, it looks like we're down about that's the 5-day. It looks like we're down about 2.66% on the day. Let's see if we look up the stock price of Square. Square is, up 0.3% on the day. I would actually consider buying this stock. Square actually does a lot of things. So, Square is probably best known as like a merchant processor, right, to take payments. I think a lot of people don't know that Square actually has their own e-commerce website builder, and it's completely free if you are using Square for payments. Now, it's not nearly as versatile or advanced as a Shopify, a BigCommerce, a WooCommerce, a Magento. But, if you're kind of cash strapped and you're looking to get a business off the ground, it does allow you to put together a half decent looking website. If I'm not mistaken, Square is the only legitimate CBD processor right now. I know a couple years back, they rolled out a CBD pilot program. So, anybody selling CBD right now outside of Square, their merchant processing is kind of up in the air. They're having to hop between payment processors. Square is, as far as I know, and I've looked into this extensively, the one merchant processor who does allow CBD sales. And I was kind of surprised to learn they do payroll services, time cards, employee benefits. They have an app marketplace. Let's see. They have banking. And probably what people know them for best is their, point of sale and or e-commerce payment processing. But, I've always kind of wondered, like, Twitter isn't really going anywhere. They've tried to roll out the $3 a month membership services. They've tried to integrate newsletters into the platform. Twitter is just not going to take off. And here you have Square, a successful company. You have Cash App, really popular. And then Jack Dorsey is a huge proponent of Bitcoin. In the past, he has said, if I weren't working with Squarespace and Twitter, I would be working on Bitcoin. So here we have a guy who owns a fintech company, owns payment processing companies, is super interested in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, and it seems like that's where his interests truly lie. So I've been really kind of surprised he's working on this dying site Twitter, when he could be, focusing all his attention on adopting cryptocurrency, both for Square payments and e-commerce, as well as for Cash App. Right now, I believe Cash App only deals with Bitcoin. So I've been really kind of surprised that he hasn't kind of turned his focus to Square. I would maybe consider it's, I really haven't done my due diligence. Let's look at like kind of a year-to-date chart. Looks like it's been kind of up and down and up and down. Let's see. I don't know, 281 back in August. We're at 212 now. If we look back at the 5-year, I don't know, I'll have to look into this a little bit more, but I would actually consider investing in Square now that Jack Dorsey's sole focus is on Square. And also, we've seen a level of crypto adoption happening right now that we've never seen before. I think, El Salvador has just announced they're building this Bitcoin city. They're doing the first ever Bitcoin bond. We got Bitcoin futures recently. PayPal's involved in crypto. I mean, we're seeing more adoption than we've ever seen before. And so I think the population, society, its customers have never been kind of more primed to kind of adopt cryptocurrency. And I think that's I think that's a direction that Jack Dorsey could really take both Square and Cash App. Now, here's what's kind of interesting. So Twitter stock is down on this news. You would think that investors would be excited that they have a CEO who is solely focused on Twitter moving forward. But one thing Twitter has been kind of criticized for, it's a very left-leaning site, right? Like, yes, in terms of the audience, although that's something that's somewhat outside of Twitter's control, is who's on the platform and what people say. But Twitter themselves have, I don't even want to say it's have been accused of, like, it's pretty obvious, pretty blatant that Twitter kind of moderates in a fashion that's more favorable to people on the left than people on the right. Jack Dorsey and one of Twitter's attorneys went on the Joe Rogan podcast a while back and kind of debated with Tim Pool. And, I don't think it's really up for debate that Twitter kind of favors left-leaning issues and kind of moderates the site in a way that kind of favors those as well. Twitter has also been accused of kind of censoring too much. And what's this guy doing? Sorry, guys, my dog's going crazy. And kind of not being a platform that's open for free speech. Well, the new guy taking over Twitter, the former chief technology officer, his name is Parag Agrawal. He had previously rejected free speech in favor of, quote unquote, public conversation, and basically says he wishes the company had done more censoring and shut down more opinions earlier on. I know different people have varying opinions on this. My attitude, generally speaking, is censorship is never good. The solution to misinformation or bad information is good information or better information. I think keeping dialogue open is good for society and good for people. When you shut down dialogue and when you censor people, the people being censored feel like victims. They're somewhat martyred, and they go off to other areas of the internet where they're even more radicalized. And also the biggest issue, when you put any person or any entity in charge of censoring and deciding what should be censored, everybody has a bias, right? There's nobody who is able to be completely unbiased. So when you give somebody the power to censor information, there's going to be a slant. There's going to be a bias to the way that they censor information. And if you look at how this whole Beerkoff thing has panned out and all of the censorship that's happened on social media, things that today are accepted as fact at one point would have gotten you kicked off or banned from pretty much every social media site. And these are things that today, we essentially know to be fact. So, I don't really ever think censorship and shutting down the conversation is good or healthy. And it looks like that's kind of the attitude that this Parag Agrawal kind of has. You guys can read more about this if you want. I would suggest going to read about it on DuckDuckGo instead of Google, since you only get a certain narrative on Google. But let's give this article a read. Twitter CTO Parag Agrawal will replace Jack Dorsey as the CEO. Let me check my phone real quick. I think I'm getting a text here. My dog's going crazy. Okay. So Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey is stepping down as chief of the social media company. Dorsey, 45, was serving as both the CEO of Twitter and Square, his digital payments company. Parag Agrawal, the company's chief technology officer, is taking over as CEO immediately. Jack Dorsey is going to stay on the board for, I think, another 6 months to kind of help with the transition before stepping down. And I didn't really realize this. I guess when Twitter was first started, Jack Dorsey was a co-founder. He was, I believe, initially the CEO in 2008, so just, 2 or 3 years into Twitter's existence. He was booted out of that position. He wound up taking the reins again in think 2015 or 2016 when the previous CEO had stepped down, and now he's moving on as well. I've heard a lot of people saying, Jack Dorsey isn't necessarily one for censorship, but that he was kind of a prisoner of his own company. I really don't know that much about the guy, but that's kind of part of the narrative that we're hearing. And I was hoping to find an article with comments, because I always kind of like reading the comments better than the actual article. So I think I saw a trending Reddit post about this. So maybe we'll head over there and just see what some different people are saying. Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey is stepping down as the chief of the social media company effective immediately. Parag Agrawal, Twitter's chief technology officer, will take over the helm, the company said on Monday. Shares of Twitter closed down 2.74% on a day. Dorsey, 45, was serving as both the CEO of Twitter and Square, his digital payments company. Dorsey will remain a member of the board until his term expires at the 2022 meeting of shareholders, the company said. Salesforce president and COO Brett Taylor will become the chairman of the board, succeeding Patrick Pitchett, a former Google executive who will remain on the board as chair of the audit committee. I've decided to leave Twitter because I believe the company is ready to move on from its founders, Dorsey said in a statement, though he didn't provide any additional detail on why he decided to resign. Agrawal, 37, will have to meet Twitter's aggressive internal goals. The company said earlier this year that it aims to have 315 million monetizable daily active users by the end of 2023 and to at least double its annual revenue in that year. Agrawal, who served as CTO since 2017, has been with Twitter for more than a decade. He had been in charge of the strategy involving artificial intelligence and machine learning and led projects to make tweets and users' timelines more relevant to them. Agrawal was also previously tasked with finding a leader for Project Blue Sky, a research project Twitter launched to establish an open and decentralized standards for social media platforms. Dorsey had previously said Blue Sky will help social media companies collaborate on how posts promoted to users and will give users more control over the content they see. This is kind of boring, so let's head over and read Reddit, see what some different people's takes on this is. Okay, so I guess we'll head over and just kind of take a quick peek at Reddit as well as Twitter itself and see what people are saying about this. Translation, I made my money and I don't need the headache of running this shit anymore. I think Jack Dorsey made his money long ago, not only with the companies, but especially being involved in crypto as well. Jack has a lot more money to make over at Square. That's kind of what I said. I think it's kind of silly. He's been focusing his attention on Twitter for so long. See. Twitter makes up a small portion of Jack's net worth. The majority of it comes from Square, as he owns only 2% of Twitter. Just look at the guy he checked out long ago. His congressional testimony from last year was a joke. Dude was blazed. He has kind of gotten a little bit weird with that goofy looking beard. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, I don't really see Twitter, being a successful company in terms of how much money they're making. Again, they've been losing users for years, and none of their plans to monetize the platform more effectively, seem that interesting. I don't see a ton of people paying $3 a month to have premium Twitter. I don't see a lot of people signing up for newsletter services. Let's see what people are saying over at... So this is the hashtag Jack. Let's see. Okay, let's go to Explore, Trending. I was going to see if there was like another one. I thought there was one that said Dorsey earlier. No, I guess we'll do Jack. Okay, so I was just trying to find one that so Jack Dorsey put his resignation letter on Twitter. It looks like this thread's got 53,000 tweets. Even the founder of Twitter has quit Twitter. It really is the great resignation. CZ of Binance, well done, Jack. Welcome to full-time crypto. As I said, Jack Dorsey I think is much more interested in cryptocurrency than he ever was interested in Twitter. So you also quit Binance. The idea was great, but execution is getting worse every day. The blocking criteria are just bullshit anymore. Twitter is not a free platform, as it started for sure. There's a space for alternatives, just a matter of time. And I think a lot of people have felt that Twitter over-censored and over-blocked people for a long time, and it seems like the new CEO is going to double down and head in that direction even more. Unblock my old account before you go, sir. Taking the issue right to the top of the chain, I see. See. You had a great run, Jack. Thanks for helping to build one of the most important platforms in the world. I don't know about that. Actually, I mean, I don't like Twitter. There's plenty of bad stuff about Twitter, but I mean, the fact that, the president of the United States, Donald Trump, was, basically lived on Twitter. I guess that says something about the platform. Just to kind of discuss one interesting thing. So for anybody who thinks that Twitter doesn't necessarily favor one side, Twitter suspended or permanently banned Donald Trump. Some of you guys may think that's a good thing. Some of you guys may think that's a bad thing. The reason was given was, I think they, I don't know if it was hateful speech or hateful content, or he was going to incite violence. But you do have the head of the Taliban actually still to this day has an active Twitter account. Now, the Taliban throws gay people off roofs. They set them on fire in cages. They're pedophiles marrying, 7-year-old girls, essentially marrying newborns. I believe people are selling their newborn daughters to the Taliban, chopping off people's heads. I mean, you're upset that Trump may incite violence, so you kick him off Twitter, but you allow the head of the Taliban to have a Twitter account. I mean, it just doesn't necessarily seem like even enforcement, regardless of how you feel about Trump. Let's see here. Full-time Bitcoin. No, Jack, Trump will return to Twitter if you go. It seems like the new CEO is probably more likely to keep him off Twitter. Let's see. That seals the deal. I'm no longer a Twitter user. This app is pure and utter embarrassment to social media enthusiasts like me. I'm officially going to Pinterest, where they know how to run a real social media app. I don't know about that, but I definitely agree Twitter's kind of a joke. Unsuspend my old account before you go. Anybody taking over Twitter must not introduce an edit button. Thou mistakes make it sense here. Who is Parag? I don't know. I'm not going to bore you guys with that. You guys can go ahead over and read Twitter and Reddit on your own if you guys want. But that's the business story of the day. Jack Dorsey leaving Twitter. Let me know your guys' thoughts. Does Twitter have a brighter future or a darker future because of this? What do you think is going to happen to the stock price? Will we see more innovation coming from Square in terms of them doubling down on their e-commerce platform, trying to compete with Shopify? Will Square and Cash App dive deeper into crypto? What do you guys think the future holds? I'd love to hear from you. If you guys enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button down below and ding the bell. That's all I got. I'll catch you guys on the next one.